Welcome back here today on the beautiful campuses of Florida Panhandle Technical College. Here today with Tricia Pearce. Tricia's come all the way from Panama City with Life Management today, talking about National Adoption Month. No more heart-wrenching situation than a child or children being taken from the bosom of their family for various reasons. Many times we see in guardian ad litem hearings, the parents walked in orange jumpsuits, and there's something that's got to be done with those children. Unfortunately, at that point, sometimes termination of parental rights. The upside is that people who want to give, who want to embrace children, especially if they don't have their own, have the opportunity to work as foster parents. When we come back, we're going to talk to Tricia about what is foster parenting? What are the opportunities? What is it all about? We'll be right back. Welcome back. As mentioned, our guest today is Tricia Pearce from Life Management. Haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're in town today because this is National Adoption Month, and you've been participating in some of the ongoings. Let's start at the beginning, though, and let's start with the nuts and bolts about Life Management. Tricia, what is Life Management?
Life Management Center is a mental and behavioral health care center for our communities, and we serve 6 counties. Bay, Calhoun, Jackson, Holmes, Washington. Maybe I missed one.
So that's basically the 14th Judicial Circuit?
It is.
Okay.
It is. And we provide everything from basic counseling for people to emergency psychiatric care. So just about anything you could think of in relation to mental and behavioral health care. And that also includes our child welfare services, so the foster care and adoptions and some other things come into play with that.
Heck, it's probably been 2 or 3 years, but you were up here with Ms. Kwiatkowski, and we, in the pre-show, we were talking, couldn't remember her name, and I apologize if you're watching. Was it Kathy?
Christine.
Christine, okay. You remember the first name, I remember the last name. But you guys came at that time to talk about just this, to talk about fostering, to talk about adoption. Tell me why you're in town here in Chipley today.
Well, November is National Adoption Month, and we like to celebrate that month by having several children adopted at one time. So we have special ceremonies, and we had one today here in Chipley where 3 children were adopted into their what we call forever families. So we've got, within the 6 counties through this month, we're going to have 23 children adopted.
How cool, and we certainly understand and respect the confidentiality issues, so it's not possible sometimes for media to cover those events. But it's important that people understand what is adoption, what is it all about, what is foster parenting. November, as I mentioned, November's National Adoption Month, but it's something that really needs to be on the top of our mind all the time. There are many reasons why children might be taken out of a home. There's termination of parental rights with the consent of parents. There is termination of parental rights without the consent of parents. For many years ago, I worked with guardian ad litem, and it's just really heart-wrenching to see these situations. Unfortunately, and just last week we were talking to Chipola Healthy Start, and talking about children having children, and many of those termination of parental rights situations being caused because the parent doesn't know how to be a parent, and there's no franchise on age, unfortunately, when it comes to that. We see 30 and 40-year-old people that really are not good parents because nobody's ever taught them. And again, that goes back to that nuclear family. Back in the old days when you had several generations living under one roof, girls and boys knew exactly what to do to be young ladies, young gentlemen. You didn't have to teach birth control or sex education in school. That was all taken care of by the family. And how to be a parent, because so often when that child was born, commensurately the grandchild or great-grandchild, there was that nuclear family to offer that assistance. When you see adoption happening, do you care to talk about the reasons why that situation started to begin with?
Sure. You know, there's various reasons, so many different reasons, but it can be neglect, where a child is not being fed, they're being left at home alone all the time in dangerous situations. They may be abused in various ways of being abused. There's just a lot of different reasons, and you bring up a good point about people not necessarily knowing how to parent. A lot of times we see that somebody was abused themselves as a child, and if you think about it, we all learn from what we grew up with. We pick up on those things. That's even though we change some things about how we conduct our lives, a lot of it comes from when we were a child and what we learned from our family. Well, if what you learned was the abuse, even if you want things to be different, if you don't know how to make things different and you don't know how to parent in a different way, then that causes a problem. If you've got somebody that's addicted to drugs or any other type of substance that's causing them a problem, that could cause some problems too. And all of that can stem from a mental health problem that somebody is, ended up abusing a substance of some sort and being addicted. But yet, they may need treatment, they may need some help. They may not be able to take care of their child because of what they're going through. There's so many different reasons that can happen.
You mentioned foster families, foster parents coming into play at some point. If a child is removed from a home on a temporary basis because there's proof of something going on, and whatever that threshold is, and again, being people, I would imagine that line varies according to the investigator. I know that the police agencies and children's advocacy centers and many organizations get involved at that point. But if they decide that where there's smoke, there's fire, and that there is an opportunity for that child to benefit from at least being temporarily removed from a familial situation, then that foster unit kicks in. Talk about how that works.
Okay. Well, we have families who essentially volunteer. Yes, they do receive a stipend that helps them with expenses, but I know several of the foster families, and the stipend doesn't even cover all their expenses. So it is a volunteer job, but they volunteer to take these children in, and they've gone through training to prepare themselves for that, and they serve as the family for that child right after the child has been removed from a home. And what really happens is that they have that child while they're going through the process of determining, will parental rights be terminated, or is there another way to work? And we even, we have programs, others have programs that we work with the families at times to try to teach them how to interact with their child so that hopefully that child can get back in the home if the situation looks like that's something that can be done safely. So all of those things go into place, and a foster family comes into play during that time. They're there to be that temporary home for a child when they're not able to be at home. It's possible that beyond that, they'll find that the child's not going to be able to go back to their biological home, so parental rights will be terminated. We have many foster families that end up adopting children that way. If not, if that's not what happens, then the child is put up for adoption, and others will come in and step in to take that adoption.
I know we have several friends right here in Chipley who have multiple foster children. Forrest Smith right here in town, and his wife Kelly, she works for iCenter of North Florida. I think they've got 3 or 4 at this point. And what more noble effort, what better way to show that you care in the most broad terms than to take a child in to your home in the most intimate situation, many of them with pre-existing problems of some kind, whether it's drug-induced health problems, the crack babies and that sort of thing, whether it's an abused situation where there's definitely some trust issues that are going to have to be overcome before. I know that Forrest, since we're speaking about him, has relayed some of the stories about how the dynamics work with his biological children and the foster children, and how as heart-wrenching as it is, they've actually had situations where something hasn't worked out and they've had to make a change. But what more noble cause? How many foster families, ballpark, do you have in that 14th Judicial Circuit?
I'm not positive exactly how many we have, but I think it's approximately around 75 in the 6 counties. We need more all the time, though. We have children all the time that we're having to send outside of our circuit to other places so that they have a home. And these children have already gone through the trauma of being removed from their home, regardless of what their home was. And their home, we may think it was really great that they were removed from the home, and that was the safest thing for them, but for them that was home. So it's trauma to be removed, and then for them to have to leave and not be able to go to the same school where their friends are, or if they've got other family members that they're not able to see. Plus, there's things going on when all that happens, where they're having to go to court proceedings. They're having to other things that are going on with the legal proceedings that are attached to this, that if they're not in the area where they were, they're having to travel back all of the time for those proceedings. So it's really hard for them to be away. So we definitely are in need of foster parents so that we can keep them right where they were.
Yeah, and during that process, many times being in the same room with their parent, in that adversarial, I can only imagine the heartbreak on the part of everybody. I know as a guardian ad litem, and even the attorney for the guardian ad litem, all of us were just shed tears on occasion. It's sad. If somebody is interested in learning more, if they're not maybe ready to be a true foster parent insofar as they adopt a child, but would like to get involved, maybe learn more with the idea of getting more involved with some of those temporary situations, what would be the best course of action?
Visit our website. It's just lmccares.org. And I say that's the best first step, just because there's no commitment there. You don't have to worry about anything.
You won't get a call?
Yeah, there's just information there for you to take a look, learn a little bit more about it, learn what the process is. You even start the process on our website, filling out an inquiry form to let us know you're interested if you want to take that step. We have classes that everybody that's going to be a foster parent or an adoptive parent has to go through, and it teaches them a little bit what to expect, how the process is going to work. There's a lot of different things that they go through on that. All of those classes are listed on our website. You can even go through those classes, and if you decide halfway through this is not for me, you've not committed to anything. It's okay. Give us a call. Talk to somebody. If you want to actually ask some questions that you don't feel are answered in any other way, we would be more than glad to talk to you and tell you a little bit more without there being a commitment. We don't want you to feel like just by looking into it you're committing to something.
Yeah.
It's a big commitment to make. You mentioned them coming into your home and how much that is. If you think about it, somebody that's had a brand new baby and bring it into their home, that's a huge adjustment. You bring any child into your home and there's an adjustment to be made. So it's a commitment and you have to be ready for it.